Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Sarah Jane, and welcome to the Intuitive Healing channel on Gift of Healing TV. I am delighted to be joined for this program by Suzanne Lane. Suzanne, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I've been very excited to come on, talk to you.
Thank you. Now, the topic of our conversation for this program is transformation and numerology. So if there's anybody out there who has heard of numerology but has no idea what it's all about, hopefully this will answer some of your questions. And for those of you that are watching live, if you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to write them in the chat. If you are watching the replay or on YouTube, you will see that there is the link to Suzanne's website under the video. Please feel free to ask her, contact her through the website and ask her. Suzanne, let me introduce you to Suzanne. Right. Suzanne has studied numerology, tarot, oracle cards, and Eastern astrology. She trained in counseling, psychosynthesis, I'm not the best of readers, I apologize, and psychodynamic counseling, is a qualified kinesiologist, I know that word, KFRP, Kinesiology Federation board member, crystal healer, Reiki master, Indian head massage, acupressure massage, color psychotherapy practitioner, then the list goes on. And Suzanne also trained in energy medicine, functional biochemistry, nutrition, ask and receive, spectrum healing, and many, many more. She has also delivered many personal development, energy and uplifting workshops to prestigious London companies such as AON, RSA, is that CII? Yes. And schools such as Linton and Melbourne Village colleges, and been a guest speaker for many local and online groups. Her work is unusual, fun, interactive, and very enlightening. Suzanne, welcome to the program. And wow, have you spent all your life training?
It sounds like it, but then I'm just old.
So Suzanne, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us to share some information about numerology and obviously its ability to be able to support us and transform our lives. Please share a little of how your story, how you've come to actually do what you do.
Well, I'd love to share it with you. I hope I won't bore you, so I'll make it nice and quick. But I started off as a young girl, experiencing weird and wonderful things and having no understanding at all. And I would say when I was younger, I thought that I must be very, I think it's left brain, isn't it? The one with the mathematical one and what have you. That's how I considered myself, to be very left brain. So I tried very hard not to engage in all the things that all the more stranger things that were going on, and tried very hard to engage my left brain. Unfortunately, or fortunately, as it turns out, these things were very powerful, and particularly in my teenage years, quite often seemed to become almost overwhelming. I ended up going into insurance, would you believe? I became a multinational property underwriter and travelled all over the world looking after the international program for some really huge companies like Apple and HP and things like this. And then I got married, had a couple of kids. And then when I had my second child, I just suddenly thought, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I gave it up and then went on a journey to discover what I wanted to do. And it started off like it nearly always starts with a lot of people with ill health. And as it happened, it was my baby's ill health. And that took me... Oh, you're right there.
Sorry.
Oh, Bless you. It started off with my baby's ill health. He had an asthmatic problem, or at least I was told he had asthma, and I wasn't having it. So I spoke to various different people. I didn't know anything about anybody, and I discovered a homeopath. So that's the first thing I ever discovered. I was still doing tarot in the background and playing with it, really, but up until that point, never seriously. And when I said this, after about 5 months of troubles with my baby and being told to give him antibiotics and an inhaler they gave me for a young baby, and I was thinking, what am I going to do with this? So after the homeopath, within 5 days, it cleared and went. After I was told that he had asthma for life and the rest of it. So I thought, oh, this is very interesting. There's something in this. So I flung open the doors of my house and started and asked all my friends to get their friends and mums to come and listen. And we used to have these mothers and babies groups where we'd get somebody to come in and talk. And it expanded and became evenings as well as daytime. So we could have evening talks where there weren't any babies about as well. And it was really interesting. We had homeopaths, we had Reiki, we had this, we had that, we had so many different things. And I was fascinated. And I didn't really know what journey I wanted to go in. So I was trying all sorts of bits and pieces, which is why my journey ended up being so many different things along the way. Because I was often went off to do this and then I went off to do that because I was trying to find something. And I think the thing that really took me, first of all, on my journey, that was the biggest eye-opener of all, was Donna Eden's energy medicine, which I trained with Madison King, and really started, and I engaged with that. And then along the line, was doing at the same time readings more and more, and then got involved in crystals, and all these things. It was a bit like a sort of spider web. And I found myself cherry picking the bits that kind of resonated with me, until eventually I find myself doing something that is possibly unique to me. There is absolutely nothing that is unique. The only thing that is actually unique to me is that I have cherry-picked bits in a specific way, that which is how I use it. But there isn't anything that I haven't got from other people, like we all do. So that's how I've reached, and it's taken me so long to actually hone things down, to just do the things that are supporting what I would like to do to help other people basically find joy. I think that's what it's all about, really. Being joyful.
Absolutely. And sorry, I have no idea what's going on. It's certainly hay fever. It's not COVID, folks. Not that it's a problem, because we're all on video. But so much there I resonate with. I used to be in insurance, but I didn't go traveling around the world with it. I think for a lot of us, we've learned multiple techniques and practices, and then we find the aspects of different ones that we then create something that is unique to us, that we can potentially share with others, teach others if we feel that's the right thing to do. But people will then take different things and they will make it their own anyway.
Absolutely.
And so it's not all about one thing. And I've spoken to so many people it's exactly what you're saying. It's, all right, cherry pick. We take the things that really are. So let's go into numerology, because this is what this program is about, so that people get a chance. But I know what you were saying before the program about it's more than numerology for you. But can we share a little about numerology? Because especially for people that have heard the word but may not have any idea what it actually means and how you get it. So it's the basics. And even if there are people who are listening who are very aware of numerology, there may be something that you can say that they've forgotten or they weren't even aware of. So yes, can you share a little of what numerology is, and just a little bit of how it, let's start with what it is.
Well, numerology is literally The numbers, it's about numbers. We use 9 numbers and a few master numbers, and it tells us something. It's like a code. I specifically use people's date of birth, but you can actually expand on numerology quite dramatically. You can go into names, all sorts of things. I stick mainly to people's date of birth and the year they're in and their personal year, and how they're affected globally by the numbers, how they're affected personally by their own particular numbers and their actual birth numbers. So with numerology, what you've got here is a code, if you like, that tells you something about yourself, something about how you are living your life, what's in front of you, and it's all wrapped up in your date of birth. So if you added all the numbers of your date of birth together, the day, the month, and the year in hundreds, tens, and units, you would come up with a number at the end of the day. And then if you keep adding that number up till it comes to the smallest possible number, that gives you your destiny number. And your destiny number is the number you should love, because that is your number. Your destiny number holds you to the world. It's what keeps you here. And that number is the number also that you're trying to get to grips with, to work, to navigate your way through. And then there'll be other numbers like your day of birth, the day and the month of birth, that will talk about how you deal with that destiny. So when I talk about numerology, what I'm trying to do, first of all, when I look at my clients, I ask them always for their date of birth, because it gives me a real clue as to what's going on in their life, what their destiny is, what number that can be. So, for example, each of the numbers has a little bit of a history behind it. So number 1 is all about being independently creative. Number 2 is about relationships and sharing. Number 3 is about social and creativity. It's more than that, but I'm kind of making it small for you so that we can move quickly through it. 4 is about building. It's also about control. And 5 is about change and travel and flexibility. 6 is about romance. It's about love and responsibility and self-love. 7 is about connectivity, about thinking and about the mind and about your relationship with your spirituality. 8 is literally about abundance and about management and about governance, being able to make your own abundance, money. It is actually quite a practical financial type of number. And 9 is the humanitarian. And the humanitarian is it's a number where you are looking to be more than just yourself, about being able to go out there to connect with others. But it's also, all of these numbers have their good side and their complicated side. So 9 in particular can be hugely complicated for somebody, because quite often somebody who has a 9 might struggle to say no. So, their boundaries could be a major problem. And if that number is coupled with your day of birth, gives you some information about how you go about trying to manage your destiny number. So if your destiny number happens to be this 9, and as I say, it's all about kind of humanity and the bigger picture. And your number is a 6, which is about love and responsibility. Your love and responsibility and your 9 could be actually quite hard for you, because, if you're feeling very responsible and you want to help humanity and you feel that you need to be helping everybody, then you might find that it's actually really, really difficult for you to say no. So it's very difficult for you to achieve anything for yourself, because you're constantly trying to do things for other people. And then that in itself can be complicated even further if you then go and have a family and you're busily going out and helping people all the time. So 9s actually can end up having a very difficult life, because they're really struggling to do the thing that they really want to do, which is to be the humanitarian, because they haven't got time to be the humanitarian because they're too busy fulfilling everybody else's needs. So those numbers, but if you have it with a different number, so if you had it with a 1, for example, you could be, and your 1 is how you go about it, then your 1 could actually be quite a powerful number that gave you the energy and the push to get that 9 and to take it into being the big picture and getting things done and moving in a humanitarian way. So but it's how all these numbers mix together. So if you add together your birthday and the month of your birth, that gives your personal goal, what you're aiming for. And invariably, people struggle to get what they personally want, what they're really aiming for, until they manage to overcome and transform and work with their destiny number. So when I tell people their destiny number, the biggest clue I get is when I'm talking to somebody and I say to them, well, your destiny number is a 3. This is very typical because I did this quite recently to somebody, and and it's all about being social, and it's this, that, and the other. And this was a teenager. I said, and how does that make you feel? And they said, sick, because I don't like leaving my room. And of course, the number is about them trying to get out and leave their room. I did say this was recently. This wasn't recently. That's a fib. This was a couple of years ago, because at the time, this person said to me, I absolutely can't be a 3. You must have got that wrong. You can't have done your figures right. Or this is a load of rubbish. I'm not a 3. I never leave my room. I'm unhappy. I'm not a social person. And anyway, a few years passed and life changed for this particular person, and their life did change. And they did start embracing their life, and they did start getting out. And I had a little conversation with that person not so long ago who said, oh, it's so funny, I am outgoing, I am social. And of course, the minute they started being a 3, they started enjoying their life. Because the one thing we're supposed to do is enjoy the number. So when I'm trying to help people with transformation, the first thing I'm trying to do is to identify what the destiny number is, how they're going about it. Is it in there? Is it working for them? Is it a struggle? More importantly of all, though, is working out what that obstacle is. And the obstacle number is the month and the year, which is your path, added to the destiny number. So if you add them together, the number that you will then get, again, always reducing to its smallest form, is the number of your obstacle, what gets in the way. So now, having said that, there are a couple of numbers that we don't reduce. We rarely see 33. But we do see 22s and 11s, and they are quite powerful numbers, and would require a little bit more of a conversation about where you go with those two. But it depends, as I say, where they sit. So where all these numbers sit together, it's like a code. It gives such a wonderful clue to how to live your life and enjoy it. So numerology is a clue, it's a code, it's a blueprint of what's going on for you in your life, and gives you a clue how to make things better, and so that you can feel more comfortable in your own shoes and learn to enjoy your life.
Now, excellent. Just as a point now, come on, I want me to bring me back. That's it. Just as a point, the adding of the numbers, because that is, say you've got a birthday of 12/12/1962. So you'd add the 1 and the 2 to make 3.
You'd actually do it as 110s and units. So I've got a pad in front of me. So you said 19.
Did I say 1962 or something? I don't know.
So
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the mirror, isn't it? You're going to see that's the mirror, but
I can see it the right way round, actually. So I don't know why.
That's good. Well, in that case, let me just show you what I do. So I literally add it down, 110 units. So I end up with this figure here.
Yeah.
1 and 9 is 10. 10 and 8 is 18. 18 and 6 is 24. So, and 2 and 4, 24 is 6.
Yeah.
So that person would have a destiny number of a 6, which is love and responsibility. Their approach, so when I'm writing the numbers, I do it like this. So I always put the destiny number here. Oh, my pen's run out.
Or it doesn't like writing on it.
It doesn't like writing like that. It's perfectly fine. So I put the 6 here.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, so that's your destiny number. Then the number 3, because their birthday is the 12th, and that's the 2 and the 1, is their would be their approach. How they go about trying to be a 6. Then it's 12 and 12 there. So that's 24. 2 and 4 is 6. So there's 6 again. And then you'd add these two together, 6 and 6 is 12, so there'd be 3 again. So this person got a particularly awkward set of numbers. Not as someone you particularly know, is it?
No, it was just numbers I pulled out the top of my head.
It's a particularly awkward set of numbers because you've got a 6 and a 6 and a 3 and a 3. And when you get numbers together, they sometimes are counterbalancing each other, so they're giving themselves a little bit of a more complex time, because you'll have the good. So the 3, for example, they're trying to be a 6 by being a 3, so they need to learn how to be a 6 and be good at being a 6, which is love and responsibility. But they're obviously a very social, engaging person. But then what gets in their way is the fact that they're social and engaging. So what are the negative aspects of being social and engaging? Well, how about every time they get a phone call to say, you're supposed to be loving and responsible and looking after whatever they're supposed to be looking after, and suddenly they get a phone call from their friends saying, oh, how about coming to such and such? And they go, oh, yes, I'd love to. And they whiz off and they completely forget that they're supposed to be loving and responsible and look after whoever it is they're supposed to be looking after, which would be very interesting because, of course, in this particular person, they're also, not only is their destiny, but their goal is to be loving and responsible. So that probably means that they walk away thinking, oh, what a terrible person I am. I haven't, I've gone and left my, whoever it was all on their own. And I was supposed to be there being loving and responsible. And I forgot, because I rushed off to be, so it's, that's a very flippant example, but, that's how it sort of works. These counterbalancing numbers can be extremely difficult. I actually did give a reading for somebody today, funnily enough, who had 3 1s, and 1 is all about being independently creative. And it was like 1 1 and then another 1, it was sort of like desperately needing to get that going. So someone very strongly trying to push forward, make things happen. And then the ones working against him. So, which probably meant, it was a struggle to, for him to actually balance things properly, and get the right balance. In fact, almost certainly. So, it can be very, very difficult. I've seen a lot of people over the years with some extraordinary numbers. And I look at these numbers sometimes and think, oh, I'm so glad they're not mine. Because some people have got, we've all got our challenges, but some people have certainly got a lot more challenges. And of course, it is about what we choose to come here for. So some people choose, obviously, to have a very much more complex and difficult life. And it's about navigating your way through. And numerology can give you just a wonderful clue. It can give you, if you understand what your problems are, what your difficulties are, then it gives you the opportunity to discover ways of how to make it simpler and easier. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's how I like to use it.
And I suppose with all the things that you've done, because you do your readings and you've done astrology, and so it all does sort of come into the mix, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm using all of it. Even so far as a kinesiologist, I was a creative kinesiologist, so I'm looking at the energy behind it at the end of the day. So I will start with the numerology, but then when I'm doing the reading, I'm looking years ago when I read the tarot, I read the tarot. But I don't read the tarot anymore. I've got an oracle deck. I read the oracle deck. I'm looking at what the cards mean, and then suddenly I'm taken. Oh, it's this number's come up again. Oh, but that's a 3, and there's a 3, and all of a sudden, the cards can take on a different meaning. So I don't actually call myself a numerologist. I call myself an intuitive numerologist because the numbers take on a meaning of their own. And as I'm trying to work with somebody and as I'm reading their cards, suddenly, instead of just reading the cards for their meanings, they've got another meaning because the numbers are coming into it as well. And I'm sort of trying, and I'm seeing a whole depth of another depth, if you like, of what's going on for somebody, and trying to help them see what's going on in their life and what's causing the problem. What's a hiccup? What's the hiccup here? Why is this so difficult for them to overcome? And and that's what I'm saying. It's a code almost. It is like something you can navigate around when you understand it. And I think transformation starts with understanding yourself.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Because the only person who can heal you is you.
Absolutely.
But it's that finding those ways, those people with those energies that can awaken that healing energy within you. Awaken that. And if you like going for readings, if you're interested in numerology, if you're interested in just experiencing Reiki and going to sleep, it doesn't matter. It's what feels right for you and is bringing the right energies to you to empower that self-healing. Then it isn't, we were saying this before we started, it isn't all about just going to one individual to support you through the whole thing. There are different things. And by having the huge range of things that you've done, you can potentially take people a little bit further down the journey. But if we've got something that helps us understand, I mean, several years ago, somebody did an angel card reading for me. They didn't know who I was, which is good. That's always good to me that people, I'm not really into readings per se, and they said I'd be working with children. I'm working with the inner child. So how do you take it? And so this is what is so beautiful, isn't it, about what you bring? You bring information. It's like your date of birth to do with astrology. And you're reading, you go to the, I'm a Taurus, and I'm an old bull. I'm not a typical old bull at all. Sort of. But in the Chinese year signs, some people really go for those. There are things within all of those things that can really speak to people, and people can say, do you know, really, that really resonates with who I am and who I feel I am. So I think you get the same thing with the numbers.
I do. And I think with myself, I mean, if I look at my journey, the reason I did so many things was because I was looking, and a lot of the things that I did, I took to a certain level and then thought, oh, this isn't quite right. I've learned this and it's been really valuable, but this is as far as I want to go with this because I don't feel I can move any further with it, which is why I've ended up with having done so many different things. There's lots of people that have done it to a much greater depth than I've done it, different things, but it's what I wanted to do to complete the journey that I was trying to find in the first place, which was to find my journey, find my path, and find my path through what I did. And the thing that helped me more than anything else was crystals, bizarrely. And I learned numerology through the crystals. Now that's and my journey to numerology came through crystals in the most bizarrest way, because and it was simply because I was always been using lots of crystals, and I realized that when I do various different things, I'm a Sagittarian. You were talking about a Taurus. I'm Sagittarius, and I am actually quite typical in some ways. In that, although I was told the other day, that with the Sagittarian, there's a senator, and the senator has got the aim. So there's an aim with the Sagittarian. They're always heading in a direction, but it could be quite diverse in which to get there. So they were actually telling me all about this, but I was actually thinking as well, as they were saying things about me, was, oh, that's very interesting, because I'm scatty. I appear incredibly scatty, and I've always appeared incredibly scatty, but I find a way always to try and sort of deal with that scattiness, because I don't actually want to lose it, because there's a part of me that likes being scatty. I don't want to take anything too seriously. In my heart, when I really think about the age of myself, I feel 8. So, and there's a part of me that wants to stay 8, because when something happens and I get excited, I still get excited as if I was 8. So I don't want to lose that. But on the other hand, there's some very big, problems with being 8. One needs a little maturity from time to time, and making sure that you do things in a certain way is very important. So one of the first things that I learned to do when I was with my readings was to program crystals. And when I was trying to work out which crystals to use, it's suddenly twigged with me, because I'd not long before I'd been training with numerology. Suddenly, all of a sudden, the crystals, I suddenly thought, well, I need to look into the numerology of the crystals. So I'd look into the names and the numerology of the crystals. And then from that, I decided that I needed to look into their connection with the crystals, the connection with the numbers, the connection with the chakras, and the actual crystals themselves. So when I'm dealing with the numerology, I'm actually also working with people's crystals. And the crystals are holding the energy, and they will hold intention as well. So when I know that I need to sort of hold the intention for doing the right piece of work for the right person, I'll program that into the crystal that's the right number for the person that I'm working with, which I can work with by finding out what their numbers are. So the whole thing over the years has sort of developed slowly and more powerfully, purely and simply because I started off just wanting to make sure that when I gave a reading, before I even started, I was doing it for someone's utmost good.
Yeah.
So that's actually why I started using them. So it kind of moved from there. And that's what I'm trying to do now. When I'm working with the numerology, I'm working with the cards, and whatever I'm doing, I don't want information about people that isn't going to help them. There's no need for it. I don't need to know. I only need to know what's necessary for me to help somebody discover something about themselves that will help them make some changes that will make their life happier, more joyful, make the changes they want. And if they make the changes they want, invariably they end up attracting what they want, and therefore they then become the manifester of a wonderful destiny and a manifester of joy, which is what I'm looking for.
Oh, at the end of the day, don't we all want to be happy in our lives?
Absolutely.
And that is what it's about. And there is an aspect of healing journey in many different techniques and practices. It is just a matter of, what are you drawn to? What speaks to you?
Such a weird thing, though, because when I mean, I said to you that I felt when I was younger very left brain. I've been told since I'm actually not. I'm the opposite. But anyway, I started off thinking that I was this very left brain person. It never really occurred to me that when I was working all those years ago, I never needed to add up a number or find out a percentage by sitting there calculating it. I could feel it. It never actually occurred to me that I actually have feelings in connection with numbers. So my interest in numerology, once I discovered it, quickly became overpowering for me, because every number had a bit of a feeling. So that when I'm talking to somebody and they tell me their numbers, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, ooh, that must feel, and I've got to have the person there to feel it. Because when I see the numbers as the numbers, if you tell me your numbers, it feels like nothing. But if you tell me your numbers and you're in front of me and you've asked me to look at them, all of a sudden they take on a new meaning. And I'm thinking, oh, that must be quite difficult because this, and this. And I'll see something in those numbers that I couldn't see in those numbers as just the piece of, the number on a piece of paper. So you need the person in front of you for the numbers to sort of come alive and explode off the page and look in a completely different way. And I find as well, using the numbers, I found myself looking at other things to do to sort of help people think about things. So, for example, I realized that a lot of people, when they start their day, they look in the mirror, and the first thing they do is they look in the mirror and they go, oh God, and that's really not a good way to start the day.
Yeah.
So, and I was thinking about all these different things I've done. The one thing I was always told was, well, you should look in the mirror and say, oh my God, you're gorgeous. And I was trained to do this years ago. And I thought to myself, what a load of rubbish. And I remember looking in the mirror going, you're gorgeous. And then, but I made myself do it because I was told you have to do it, even if so I started saying, well, you're gorgeous, and then laughing because I thought, no, I'm not really, but so ha ha ha. And then after a while, after a couple of weeks, I started looking in the mirror thinking, oh, we're not really that bad, actually. And I realized with other courses and things that I did over the year, but actually what all this is about is self-hypnosis. We get up every morning, we look in the mirror and we say something horrible to ourselves, and we believe it. We believe that's something nasty about ourselves. So one of the things that I've looked at doing, which is quite simple, that you could do it for yourself. You don't need my little cards to do it. But I actually developed some little cards based on the numbers. All I did was pick little affirmations that are to do with each number and get people to balance on those numbers, so that they can stand in front of the mirror every day and say the right thing to themselves. But again, it's with the numerology, because at the end of the day, I just think, well, it's got, those numbers have got such a lovely blueprint for life. They all say something, and there's different aspects of the number every day that we might have an issue with. So the idea is to not just go and say, I'm gorgeous, but actually say an affirmation to do with whatever's going on for you in that particular day, to make you say something positive. So, because that's what the first thing that we should be doing every morning, saying something positive. So again, I think it's all about with the numbers, with how we do things. It's about finding ways of dealing with our lives where we actually feel good about ourselves, because that's what we've got to do. Learn to love ourselves. Learn to love your number. Whatever your number is, you need to respect that number, because there's good things and bad things about every number. And it's very easy to look at someone else's numbers and think, oh, what wonderful numbers. I wish I had those numbers. But hidden in those numbers quite often is problems for whoever's got them. We've all got our journey. And it's I think it's to enjoy our journey. It's to learn to respect our numbers and respect ourselves for choosing those numbers, for choosing that moment to be.
And it's all about choice and affirmations. Yes. Well, I was working with somebody one day and it was just suddenly in my head, and I knew it was for that individual, but it was for me and it was for everybody else. I am the love of my life.
That's beautiful.
And it's just like, and I'd already been saying and I still do it every day. It's a sort of, I am special. I love me. And you can say these things without believing them. And then one day, suddenly you think, do you know what? I do believe it now. It can take time. With me, it probably took several years of repeating it quite a few times in the morning, but every morning. But I think it is about what do we do to support ourselves? What do we do to help ourselves?
Because the other important thing about that is perception.
Yeah.
And the difficult thing is that the brain is exceedingly clever, and it filters things so that we hear exactly what we want to hear. So if we keep telling ourselves something like getting up in the morning and looking in the mirror and going, ugh, you know, oh, I wish I wasn't like that, or whatever it is that we tell ourselves, we then go through the day and the brain filters things to show us what it thinks it wants. It wants to, you know, to see. So if we're telling ourselves that we are not very lucky, you know, and everything that is not lucky is going to happen to us, then the brain will look around and show us that. It will point out everything that is showing us that we are maybe not so lucky will be highlighted to us, and therefore we will see only that, and we will become more and more convinced, and we will more and more attract it because that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Whereas when we tell ourselves, when we if you like, self hypnotize ourselves into looking for something a bit better, then the brain will make those motor neurons, and it actually literally, that's what it's doing. It's actually scientifically making those motor neurons, which will now filter everything in a completely different way. So when you're flicking through, feeling very miserable, flicking through, looking for a job that you're very desperate for, but you don't believe you're going to get, you'll turn over. I mean, they don't have newspapers these days so much, but if they did, or if they're flicking through their computer, they'll just miss that job that's sitting there waiting for them to see it. But if they're feeling that they are worthy of that job, the brain will seek that job out and it will find it. Suddenly that job's there. Suddenly that opportunity is right in front of them. Oh, look, there it is. Goodness me. I knew there'd be something good for me, and here it is. And that's why, because the brain is accepting what's in. So that's why numerology is so, for me, so amazing. It's what it's doing is it's giving people a clue into the way they're thinking. And if we have some idea of how we're thinking, then we can work with the filtering mechanism. And that's what I'm trying to do with people, help them look at the filtering mechanism, how they are filtering their thoughts, how they are dealing with their own inner self, and how they can change that into the most positive way possible, so the brain will filter for them so they can see and manifest what they want to manifest.
Absolutely.
Excitement there.
But it is, isn't it? It is excitement in respect of, it is amazing in our own unique ways what people can do to support people to actually live a better, fuller, to transform their life from the negative to the positive. It doesn't mean the negative doesn't happen. It just means that you said, we concentrate on the positive, the good, the enlightening, the happy, the whatever. Because somebody says to you, I don't want you to think about red cars. What are you going to do? You're going to see red cars all day.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Because
and there's a wonderful video online as well. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's these chaps, they're all girls and boys, they're all playing ball. And you're told before you watch it, they say to you, you must count very carefully 15 passes. So you sit there and you study this video, and if you're, you know, really intent on finding those 15 passes, you'll see those 15 passes. And then afterwards they say to you, but did you see the man in the gorilla costume walk past? Now, the amount of people who turn around and say, what gorilla costume?
Yeah.
You know, but then if you play it back to the same batch of people who couldn't see it, there is somebody literally walks on in a gorilla costume, turns around and walks away. You know, I mean, obviously certain people can see it, depends, but it depends how intently you're set on counting obviously the balls. But the point is the brain was concentrating on counting the balls. It wasn't concentrating on seeing somebody in a gorilla suit. So it didn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and afterwards you get all these people with their mouths going, how on earth did I miss seeing the gorilla? You know, it was so obvious, you know, but you can miss that.
Yeah.
So it's the same with life. You know, if your intent is, you know, not on what's on good, then you'll miss the good things. So it's about directing people, helping people see where these little issues are for them so that they can find, and the other thing is so true what you say, because it's a spider web of different things. And there are so many people that I know that do the most amazing things. And one of the things I think I love more than anything, that I think is such an incredibly supporting thing, is Reiki. You know, it's such a simple thing in many ways. But if ever you want to calm somebody down, I mean, quite often, if somebody comes to me for reading, I've ended up saying to them, go find a Reiki practitioner, because you need to calm right down. And then, you know, you need the calm so that you can spend a moment to reflect, actually with an empty brain. Because 9 times out of 10, what we really need is to try and shut the brain down as much as possible. And one of the most beautiful and easiest things in the world is Reiki. And actually something we were also talking a little bit earlier on about, Indian head.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So these so many practices that help people, so many practices. And I don't do them anymore, not because you just can't do anything, can't do everything. But I have such a respect for many of the physical, nearly all of these different kind of relaxation things, because I think that if you're going to make some changes in your life, you need to find a drop of peace to begin with.
Yeah.
So even if I come round and say to somebody at the end of the day, oh, well, here's the number and blah, 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 and this is what if somebody's not at peace with themselves, they're not going to use that number. They're not going to, the information is a waste of time, because they can't accept it if their mind is in turmoil. So there's such a place for everything in a journey.
Yeah. But I would say nothing is a waste of time, because you've said to them what you needed to say to them. Now, I don't like the word needed, but I can't think of another word. What was to be said to them at that point in time? And I've been told off before now for, you can't speak to people like that. And it's just, yes, I can. Because if they turn around and say to somebody in the future, that funny woman that day at that event said that to me. Because what they say is, if you hear something 3 times, it is trying to get your attention.
Mm.
And it is really important. So us having the confidence and the courage, because it is courage at times, to just be open with people and to be honest and share the information that we have. It may not be right for them at that moment, but there will be something that they remember in the future. And it is the right time for them then.
Mm.
It really is. And so I would never be one of these people to think, well, better not say that to them now. It'd be just like, I am going to be honest.
Mm.
It's how you do it. I can be blunt, but it's how you do it. When they are ready, they will. There will be something in the back of their mind that says, I've heard that before.
Mm. Well, I definitely do end up telling some people to just go away and have some rest and relaxation first of all, because I think that if your mind is completely cluttered and crowded and you're that tired, then how on earth can you take on another thing? And in itself, I mean, the reason why change is so hard is because it's easier to do nothing.
Yes.
Which is, you know, so if you want to make a change, you have to have that moment of understanding, but also that moment of peace and quiet, a moment of stillness where you can actually reflect and say, oh yes, well, actually there is a need for me to do something and I would like to do that something. And sometimes it's you can send somebody away and say, look, I really think you need to go and have some rest and relaxation. You're so wound up, you're like a coil, you know, and at this moment in time you can't take on anymore. At which point there's no point. Why would you progress with somebody who's in that state? You know, at this moment in time, what they really need is somebody that's going to help them find some inner peace, some quiet, so that they can actually come to some understanding on their own that they need to make some changes.
Yeah. And it's the making the space for the new.
Absolutely.
Because it is about, when you let go of something, you create a vacuum, and the universe abhors a vacuum. It will fill it. So if you have got too much going on in your life, there's no room for anything new to come in.
Absolutely.
If you make the space, then the new has the space to come in. And the universe won't always take things away from us. Sometimes it will make us do the letting go.
Yes, exactly. And I think also, I mean, it's very difficult as well, though, because I think learning the difference as well between making space and sticking your head in the ground and thinking, oh, well, I just won't do that. You know, there's a difference there as well. And it's very important to actually learn the difference between needing to take a step back and not doing something that you should really be doing. So,
Yeah.
which, and that's probably why I think, from my own point of view, I always say to people, if I'm going to tell someone to take a moment, I would tell them to go and have a Reiki treatment or some kind of treatment where they completely calm down and have, because you've got to find the difference between where you are, where are you really, what is really going on.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people, I've had people before that are very keen on change. They change all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are making space or engaging in what they're making the space for.
Yeah.
So there's that too. And that's, I think, equally important, which is why these moments of clarity are so important.
Yeah, absolutely. We have actually gone for more than 45 minutes. So it's been brilliant. No, it really has been brilliant. Thank you, Suzanne. But is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to share with folks before we close?
Do you know what? I can't really think of anything except to say how wonderful and lovely it has been to be with you. And you know, I do hope that, and if people would like to just ask what their destiny numbers are, if they want to contact me and just to get the numbers so that they know what their destiny number is, I'm very happy to do that for anybody.
Okay, and that the website address is www.lifequest.co.uk.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. As I said, folks, I'll make sure that's under the video if you're watching on YouTube, so that you can do that. And I've just put that into the chat as well. Suzanne, thank you so much. I hope you and I will have another conversation, because I would like to talk to you about crystals.
Oh, well, I'd be delighted.
And dragons. So anyway, that's
sounds wonderful.
another conversation. Anyway, so Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Really, thank you. And good night to everybody. It's been so lovely.
It's been a real pleasure. Next week, we have a today's conversation for you, spaces to move through the story of stress. And I hope you will join us for that. And the following week, Wednesday, the 18th of May, there's a thoughtful nuggets and pearls for you, forgiveness of self. So we've got some very powerful conversations coming up for you over the next couple of weeks. Suzanne, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we will talk again soon.
Thank you very much.
Love, peace, and light to you all. Take care, be safe, stay well. Namaste.